It's really nice to meet you all, and thank you so much. I wish I could be there in person, but I hope you can hear me all right. So as Errol said, I do come to you with many hats, and one of my hats is a palliative medicine doctor and an oncologist, and a big focus of my career in the first 10 years was actually on patient wellness. But what I've realized over the last couple of years is that for patients to be well, physicians have to be well. And so in the last couple of years, my focus has been on professional development and on faculty wellness. And I feel very lucky to work alongside a friend and mentor, Dr. Upi Singh, our chair of faculty development. And it's my pleasure today to present our work on Model, an initiative for faculty development that actually started a couple years ago and has developed over time with an official launch in 2024. Along with me are my partners, Dr. Kirstine Schirmer, the director of the Teaching and Mentoring Academy and a core teacher for our Model faculty, and Dr. Minjoung, a Tri-Valley hospitalist and our Model lead for our Tri-Valley mentorship group. So why am I here today? There's a story that underpins this, and most good work starts with a story. Many years ago, I came to interview for residency. The residency director was a man named Dr. Kelly Skeff. Many of you might know him. He made an impression on me as someone who really walked the walk and truly took doctoring in stride. As a beacon of who I aspire to be, I came back to Kelly as I started thinking about this program and pulling the foundations together. He took me very seriously, noting that his most recent work in the related area of medical professionalism noted some serious gaps. He noted competing demands on physician time, including institutional requirements, a fragmented healthcare system, and requirements of the EHR that was leading to extremely high levels of physician moral distress and burnout. He notes that it wasn't uncommon for physicians to feel like, I failed my patient. The basic tenets of professionalism, communication, accountability, kindness, and skill were being eroded by day-to-day less important tasks required of institutions and systems. What was even more terrifying was a shroud of silence where physicians were despondent because of this and yet felt alone and unable to share their stories. 7 years later, after Dr. Kelly Skeff did his interviews, our own Dr. Yurkovitz, who presented at Grand Rounds a few weeks ago, documented the very incredible challenges facing our fragmented healthcare system, noticing errors and mistakes in healthcare that result from a system that does not support our ability to doctor. As physicians, we were no longer assisted by the healthcare system, but also lost within it and beholden to it, often at the dire cost to patients, their families, and ourselves. In my new role as the Director of Clinician Educator Development, I felt also a little bit lost. I was wondering, what is our way forward? How do we start to think about mentorship and faculty development in a system that felt fragmented, challenged, and not supportive? I was heartened by literature that was presented by the authors of Compassionomics, Dr. Trzeziak, who is actually an intensivist turned compassion doctor. He actually said something that was very interesting and resonated even with something that my husband told me a long time ago. He said, if you want to take care of yourself in medicine, don't care too much, be detached. However, he was surprised to find out that the research that he did actually showed that this was not true. In fact, the key to resilience was meaningful relationships and caring for patients. He noted that compassion, an emotional response to someone in pain and suffering, when combined with action to improve that suffering, actually improved our reward center and improved our experience, reducing burnout and compassion fatigue. Additionally, he noticed that connection with others, specifically our peers, family, and friends, was more important than vacations or getting away or escapism to deal with burnout. And finally, he found that healthcare operations were also crucial. Anything that we could do to improve our eyeball time with patients, helped us to get the right information to provide the right care for patients and reduce moral distress. And most foundational to this, and this is what he says at the beginning of all of his Grand Rounds, is I want you to take good care of each other, which means that we actually have a commitment to each other, to our colleagues in the healthcare field, to the staff in the healthcare field, to provide care for each other in order to take care of ourselves. So I realized Dr. Trzewiak was onto something. So I continued a little bit of my reading, and I found the work of Dr. Sapala, who's actually here at Stanford and is the director for compassion and altruism research. She studies the science of happiness, and all of us crave that. She notes two kinds of happiness. The first is the hedonistic kind, also known as sex, drugs, and rock and roll. However, this sounds amazing, but this happiness is short-lived. She also notes a second kind of happiness. This kind of happiness comes from helping others. This happiness leads to long-lasting happiness and fulfillment. Interestingly, it also leads to greater health and longevity. She also notes that happiness is related to being fully present with someone. Wow. Now that's something we get to do each day if we lean into it. And she said something that was very interesting, and that's counterintuitive to a lot of physicians and staff's way of working, which is that you actually do best sometimes when you're idle, or when you're daydreaming, or when you're mindless. Those are the times for the greatest creativity and the ability to really connect with our own sets of unique solutions. So disengaging, such as sabbatical, can lead us to come back with new ideas and new creativity, which may allow us to have more fun. So I took all of this information. I was like, okay, so Stanford faculty, are we happier than others? Are we less burdened? How do I take this data and how do I apply it to the group that's in front of me? Well, we are not too different from clinicians across the country, and not too different from the research that's been done by others. So we interviewed our faculty and we listened to the stories, and these were some of the things that came out. It's difficult to carve out time for development, research, and wellness. Our clinician educators are overburdened. There are unique challenges for women and underrepresented minorities. The pace that we lead here can lead to exceptional burnout. And different communities have different needs and different resources. And despite all of these resources that we know that if we engage in certain activities, if we engage in compassion, if we engage in maybe a little mindlessness, we can feel better and do better. Yet, despite all of this, we still feel alone. And so I was thinking a bit, how do I connect the data that we know exists to help us do better with our faculty and make this very real? So this actually is the pilot of model, and I want to thank my friend and colleague, Dr. Wakely, and also my friend and colleague, Isabel Blanchard, because a few years ago, we started our pilot to model called LINK, which was Lean In, Network, Know. Now, Lean In, Network, Know came in the wake of COVID, and a lot of our faculty had never met each other. There was no water cooler conversations. So the goal of LINK was kind of simple. We met once a month, and we met to talk, eat, and play fun games. Scattergories and bingo were big hits. We also did great talks on academic promotion, clinical trials, and wellness. But I think the true secret was what Dr. Sapala and Dr. Trzewiak showed us, which is that we do better when we give our brains some time to disengage and when we take care of each other. When we finished LINK, we did an analysis of participants, and the folks felt connected, seen, and valued. I would say that it was a success. So this is a history. This is our history. And I thought it would be important to take a moment and just define a few terms before we move forward with the present, which is our program and model. So I wanted to stop and just define a few terms. And I think this is important because I didn't even really know these terms a couple of years ago. And I think many people who are on the call may also be less familiar. So model is a mentorship program, and mentoring is the process by which an experienced person provides guidance, support, and encouragement to a less experienced person. We recognize that good mentorship, and I'm going to pause again and say good mentorship, plays a critical role in the training and career development of physicians and scientists and staff. And a growing body of literature has documented the benefits of mentorship, which include increased research productivity, faster academic promotion, and greater faculty retention and career satisfaction. I'm going to say again, good mentorship, because poor mentorship can lead to the opposite. Now, I also wanted to pause for a second and just make a point for sponsorship. And I just also wanted to let you know that we're going to have some of our colleagues who are experts in sponsorship come to us from UCSF in July to talk to us a little bit about why this is so important. Sponsorship is active support for a faculty member by someone appropriately placed in the organization who has significant influence on decision-making processes or structures, and who is advocating for, protecting, and fighting for the career advancement of the individual. Now, this is critical. Faculty need mentors, and they also need sponsors. And we find that sometimes women and underrepresented minorities actually have a lot of mentorship and unfortunately have less sponsorship. So with this in mind, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Model. And I want to also thank Bonnie, Bob, and Kathy, because I actually think Model was an organizational leap of faith, and our fearless leaders listened to myself, Dr. Singh, and my amazing partner in crime, Rebecca Giraldi, and said, we're going to take a chance on you, which is often how great things are built. So Model was built on Link and was built on the stories and research I've presented to you. We interviewed faculty across the divisions in a variety of roles, from specialty clinics, Tri-Valley, the CE Advisory Council, and also included our division chiefs. We learned about the programs that already existed, such as Commensality to the PCPH mentorship program. We learned about division-wide and department-wide mentoring programs such as TMA, our professional development resources in the Office of Academic Affairs, and apps that were created to connect mentors to mentees. We listened to folks as they talked about their stresses, their search for wellness, and their frustrations. We wanted to be relevant, and we did not want to be redundant. And we wanted the organization to support our process and our mentors. So what were our gaps? One of the biggest gaps we noticed that there was a dearth of support for mentors. We realized that many of our mentors were those who were already tapped the most frequently, and often the time and work spent in mentorship was not seen or compensated in any way. Additionally, we realized that mentorship was seen as a skill that did not require training, a bit like communication or breaking bad news. Skills we realize now benefit greatly from training. And we also learned that we needed more structure overall, and we needed to make sure we were creating space for underrepresented minorities and women. Finally, folks really wanted mentorship across divisions, not just within their division. So with those learnings, we started Model, a cross-divisional mentoring and development program specifically designed to meet the unique needs of our CE and UML faculty. And the tenets of Model can be summarized in the 4 C's: community, connectedness, culture, and commitment. Based on the size, division needs, commonality, we created 7 model groups. We then sent out a call for applications. I think this was one of the most heartening parts of this story. The applications we received were truly exemplary. These were folks who believed in the power of mentorship and connection as a way to improve the lives of those around them, and who were willing to go truly above and beyond with their skills to support our mission. And we only got to choose 7. There were countless more who continue to serve, even outside of the model capacity. These are 7 model leads. I want to shout out to all of them. We have one representing the model leads today here, Minjoung Go. But Wen Kai Wang supports transplant, hematology, and oncology. Suchi Anand supports endocrinology, nephrology, infectious disease, immunology, and rheumatology. Linda Nguyen supports gastroenterology and hepatology, pulmonary, allergy, and critical care medicine. Paul Wang supports cardiovascular medicine. Will Collins supports hospital medicine. Minjoung Go supports SHC Tri-Valley. And Maya Artandi supports primary care and population health. All of these folks have an enormous track record in leadership and mentorship, both in their divisions and in the department. And in the last year that I've worked with them, I've learned more from this group on how to lead, teach, and listen than I have in over a decade. And we have a lot of fun. We kicked off last fall and started with a fantastic party followed by a rigorous training. Our training had two main components, and the first was really on learning how to mentor. And you're going to learn a little bit more from Christine today, and unfortunately Lars is in Africa. But Lars Arsterberg and Christine Schirmer led our group on some core skills in mentoring. And again, I'll turn it over to her in a minute. But we also included all of the folks that we learned from in our research and brought them all back to our model leads. Rania Sanford came and spoke about faculty professional development. Lydia Shapira came in to speak about her role in continuing medical education. Kathy Garzio and Upi Singh led an artful discussion on the art of negotiating. Stephanie Harmon taught us a little bit about DEI, URM, and the SNAP program. Linda Gang spoke to us on conducting research and team science. Christina Kudelko and Sean Wu spoke to us about advancement and promotion. Our very own Kelly Skeff on caring for our caregivers ourselves. Eva Weinlander on stress, burnout, compassion fatigue, and Rebecca Merrill on making space. So I'm going to turn it over to Christine to tell you a little bit about our training for our mentors.
Thank you, Kavitha. Good morning, everybody. So I will talk a little bit more about the training for the model leads and wanted to actually back up a little and just quickly give an overview of the Teaching and Mentoring Academy, or TMA, as a whole, for those of you who may not be familiar with what we do. So we've been in operation since February of 2016, so a little over 8 years. And our mission is essentially to support and promote excellence in teaching and mentoring across the School of Medicine. And we do that by offering a wide variety of programs. And I really appreciated hearing Kavitha talk about this need to bring people together, because that's sort of a thread that runs through everything that we offer, as we're really trying to help create a community of educators. So a place where people who are doing the work of education in this medical space can find each other and support each other and learn from each other in that work. So we offer this whole list of different programs and resources, and the first couple are focused on teaching skills, and they're based on the work of Dr. Kelly Skeff. And indeed, he and Georgette Stratus facilitate the first in the list, the Teaching Skills Workshop, for us once a year. And the second is we bring together a group of faculty to work together through the course of a whole year on the online version of their course, Mastering Medical Teaching. So that's just another way to help people come together and support each other in learning that material. The next little block of programs are focused a little bit more on medical education scholarship. So we have an innovation grants program. It's a mini grants program. The RFP is actually open now and proposals are due in June. And that is to support innovations in teaching, learning, and med ed scholarship. The next is our monthly medical and bioscience education seminar series. And this is an opportunity for people in the community, across the SOM community here, to present work that they're doing. Sometimes these are skills-based workshops really focused on teaching or mentoring. Other times, again, med ed scholarship. The Stanford Health Professions Education and Scholarship, or SHAPES program, formerly Clinical Teaching Seminar Series, is a year-long faculty development for medical education, and they do an excellent deep dive into how do you develop a study, how do you conduct it, collect the data, review. It's kind of the closest thing we have to a master's in health professions education. It's an excellent program. We're also now offering office hours, so you can go and have a one-on-one consultation with our associate director to support in med ed scholarship projects. And then the next item in the list is our annual Medical and Bioscience Education Day Conference. And this is really just a celebration of education in the School of Medicine across the school. So it's a day-long conference. We have some skills-based and lots of presentations of ed scholarship. But the biggest piece is for people to come together across divisions, across departments, and just have a chance to connect and network and celebrate this community of educators. The last 3 items in the list I'll talk about more in a moment, but if you could go to the next slide, Kavitha. I first also just wanted to share our org chart so you could see how we're situated in the School of Medicine, because we're sort of uniquely bridging both clinical side and the bioscience side. So we have 2 faculty co-directors. Many of you know Lars Osterberg, who's our faculty co-director for the clinical faculty, and then Julie Baker from genetics is our is our faculty co-director for the basic science faculty. And then we roll up to the senior associate deans for med ed and grad ed, and ultimately to dean minor. Next slide, Kavitha. So the last 3 items on this list are really intended to support people in their mentoring endeavors. So we do have an annual, mentoring skills workshop series that we offer once a year. It's a 3-part series, and that's co-facilitated by Lars Osterberg and myself. And having done that for many years, we began to be invited to different departments to offer sort of a piece of that training, usually focused on feedback. And people really wanted this to be tailored to the needs of their department and sort of how they are mentoring within their specialty. And because the requests for those invited sessions became so great and kind of surpassed our capacity to honor all the invitations, we developed last summer a Train the Trainer curriculum. And the idea here is to find champions within departments who can take this content, sort of understand how we teach it and why we teach it the way we do, and then deliver it to their colleagues within their own departments. It's a win-win. For us, it helps us with our bandwidth issue. And for departments, it really allows faculty who know what the needs are of faculty in that department, who understand the workflow, how you work with trainees, where do you build feedback into the daily workflow, for example, and to really, with that knowledge, shape the content and deliver it in a way that's very meaningful for individuals in that department. So next slide. So we were really happy to be invited to share this Train the Trainer curriculum with your model leads, and it was a really wonderful experience to work with them. We were together for 4 sessions, and this is an overview of the content that we covered in each. And we really wanted to give participants both exposure to the content around mentorship, communication skills, listening skills, all those really critical parts of how you engage in a mentoring relationship, and also wove into their elements from Kelly Skeff and Georgette Stratus's 7-part teaching framework, because we're also training folks to lead these sessions. So thinking about how do you create an inclusive and meaningful and supportive learning climate? How do you focus and pace your session? How do you communicate your goals to your learners? How do you hear what their goals are, and so on? And so that's the general overview of what we did for Model, and I'll turn it back to you, Kavitha.
Thanks so much, Christine. And this was our very busy fall. So we spent fall training all of our model leads. And we also spent fall designing our curriculum and our plan for the year. And so each model lead is responsible for their own group. They're responsible for their own speaker series, their own workshops, their own networking events for social connection. This is one example. I believe this is Linda's, that was her 1-year program for her model group, but we wanted to give everyone that independence, because each group has their own needs, and each group has their own relationships with their faculty as well as their chiefs and other stakeholders. So we wanted to allow folks to deliver on what was needed for their divisions. Also in the fall, we had to do some recruitment. So this is actually Suchi's really amazing flyer, where we made a call for mentees. Mentoring is important. Being a mentee is also important as well. And we worked with, again, the division chiefs. We spoke at faculty meetings to recruit participants to the program. And this might be the slide that I'm most proud of. Here you see actually 80+ faculty who are our model mentees. They range from assistant to associate, from new to having been here for a bit. And so with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Minjoung to share a little bit about her program, her very unique program in Tri-Valley.
Thank you, Kavitha. So as Kavitha mentioned, the model program is a cross-divisional mentorship, and 7 groups were formed based on the commonality among divisions. It's worth noting that the Tri-Valley is unique in that it's based on the geographic location. And this was a very thoughtful and intentional decision to support the faculty working at Tri-Valley. Just to give you some background, Tri-Valley was previously known as Valley Care, a community hospital created by residents of Pleasanton, Livermore, and Dublin in 1960s. And in May 2015, it became part of the Stanford healthcare system. And since then, its clinical capacity has grown substantially, and it still continues to expand further. At this moment, there are about 17 Stanford healthcare specialty clinics closer to the hospital, and that just speaks about how much we have grown in the past 8 years. Next slide, please. When we think about the clinical service line growth, that also means the expansion of our faculty in size. In 2015, Hospital Medicine Division was the first division came out to Tri-Valley, started with the 3 hospitalists, and you can see the picture at the bottom, and that was I was one of the first faculty out there. And in less than 8 years, the number of faculty has grown exponentially. As of last year, Tri-Valley has 385 credentialed School of Medicine faculty. So what that means is that close to 400 School of Medicine faculty are providing clinical cares for the Tri-Valley community. And of those, approximately 120 faculties are working every day at Tri-Valley for patient care and expanding their missions of Stanford missions of education, research, and clinical care. And these faculty represent about 13 School of Medicine departments and 22 divisions. Roughly about 50% are being from Department of Medicine. More than 60% are women faculty. And I also want to note that many of them are still in the early stages of their career. And I strongly believe a structured, good mentorship will play a crucial role in fostering their career development, satisfaction, retention, and sense of belonging. Next slide, please. And the work that Tri-Valley faculty have done in the past 8 years has been extraordinary. They're the true pioneers of extending Stanford medicine to community. And I want to take a moment to recognize and celebrate the outstanding contributions. Our faculty's excellence is reflected in the high quality patient care that they provide. Number of faculty also strive to enhance patient care by taking a lead through the medical directorship and hospital operations leadership. Some of our faculty education, especially our education team, has built the foundations and processes to develop various education programs at Tri-Valley. We plan to start family medicine program in near future. And Stanford trainees, including residents, fellows, PA students, are now coming to Tri-Valley to learn about community-based academic medicine. And additionally, some faculties actually have devoted their passion to engage early learners through the Clinical Academy Summer Program for local high school students. And the faculty also, some of the faculty also has been paving the way for Tri-Valley to conduct clinical trials. And this is a remarkable milestone for 2 reasons. First, we started this building research infrastructure in the midst of pandemic while handling patient clinical volumes. And this reflects the resilience, commitment, and passion of our faculty members at Tri-Valley community. And second, this effort also have contributed to improving access to the clinical trials in local communities. Next slide, please. Behind these successful stories, our faculty also faces unique challenges in channeling their passion and interest to tangible outcome. It's because Tri-Valley community is still in the building and expansion phase. What I meant by that is sometimes faculty members need to put their more effort and time to build the necessary foundations before they can pursue their interests. And this process can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can cause faculty members to feel lost or disconnected from their meaning in medicine. And I really think that this is where the model program comes in. By instilling a culture of mentorship, we are aiming to guide our faculty along their career path and shedding lights onto their vision ahead. And through the mentorship, in the distinctive context of Tri-Valley, I believe we can cultivate supportive, safe culture that facilitates open dialogue and provide our faculty with the guidance and support to their need to thrive. And I'm really excited about the journey ahead of us. And now I'll turn it to Kavitha. Thank you.
I just wanted to say I am so proud of all the work Minjoung Go has done, not just recently, but over the last 8 years. I had a chance to visit and just see the facility and just the work that they're doing as a team in the community. So, and there's many, many more stories. So I'm excited to share a few photos of the work that started as of January 2024. So this is Paul's group. One of the quotes from one of his mentees was that this has been the single most valuable hour I've spent at Stanford, which is pretty remarkable. This is from Maya Artandi's mentee. She says, for a new faculty member, it can be challenging to understand how things at Stanford work. I am excited to get support with navigating the system, and it's neat to see Sang at this first session. This is our lovely Minjoung's work. It feels great to reconnect with everybody again. This is exactly what I needed to feel more involved and less isolated. This is Will's group, his amazing hospitalist tribe. He says, I was very heartened by the enthusiasm from our faculty for this program. I was initially concerned I would not have enough interest for the group. Instead, I found many of our mentees were particularly thankful we created this program. Here's Suchi's cohort with Ann Weinecker discussing cross-discipline and cross-department leadership, and she has the very unique and beautiful role of bringing together 4 different divisions with both commonalities and difference to work through mentorship and leadership. This is Linda's cohort, and you can see them with our fearless leaders of SHC as well. So we are Stanford, so we're learning about our process and our outcomes. So we do have a study ongoing, and we hope to report back to you when our program comes to after 12 months to really understand, is this feasible? Can people attend? Does this format work? We're also looking at metrics that evaluate mentorship skills and also wellness and connection. But I challenge us to come back to the authors of the happiness track and Compassionomics to measure these areas for our faculty over time. How do we build skills that create resilience and allow us to maintain this over time? And our goal with these learnings is to continue the work in this department, but also disseminate it across other departments, recognizing that there are more commonalities rather than difference. We hope to instill into our culture that this is part of our normal conversation. This is not just about promotion and retention, but this is about how we treat each other. We recognize that in medicine, we are constant teachers and constant learners, constant mentors and constant mentees. And doing this work allows us to stay whole, happy, and true to ourselves. As I close this conversation, I wanted to reflect on a conversation that I heard at my child's school just a couple of weeks ago between a reputed affective neuroscientist from USC, Dr. Yang, and the head of a middle school that I really care about, Mr. Jim Egan. Jim noted that he was proud of his son, who was an avid snowboarder, for asking to board with the Olympic team on a local mountain. He said, I want kids these days to be confident. How do we obtain confidence in kids of today? Dr. Yang laughed softly and said, it's not confidence, it's self-awareness. It would have not been in my best interest to go on those slopes as your son did. It would have been life-shortening. But your son was self-aware enough to know this was something that he wanted to do for growth and learning. I realize that many people might say that the goals of this program would include things like promotion and retention. What I'm actually working on is something much more basic, It's creating that emotional response, that love for learning, that sense of self-awareness. It's a memory, a desire, a love of learning to yearning to learn and care for others. And fundamental to that is a sense of self-awareness, so that we each know what we need in order to be whole, successful, and hopefully confident. So thank you. This is the story of many, many people. I hope I had a chance to honor all of them in the story, and I hope that we begin to fly together. So, thanks.
Thank you, doctors. That was wonderful. You know, one of the things that resonated with me is I honestly, not knowing too much about the model program, thought it was more of a how to get promoted, how to get your research. It's so much deeper than that. And I see that from the photos and all the things you described, you're really creating community and connection amongst peers in such a great way that helps them traject their careers so much differently. Thank you for all this amazing work. I see a question by Dr. Raj I'll get to. I just want to ask, just generally speaking, you kind of alluded to a few things, and actually, well, maybe I'll ask Dr. Rogers' question because it's similar. Dr. Rogers mentions the sessions on the model leaders are receiving sound amazing. The sessions they're receiving are amazing. The curriculum, can the curriculum be repeated for others in future years, even annually, so that other well-trained mentor pools keep growing? I know it sounds very time intensive, but I bet lots of people would be excited to learn and train.
Absolutely. I don't know if Christine, are you still here if you want to take that?
Yeah, certainly the training that we led through the Teaching and Mentoring Academy, we can talk to anyone to coordinate a way to offer it to their departments or their divisions. And folks are also welcome to join on to any of the other offerings that I listed in that first slide. And everything is free and it's all available to everyone within the School of Medicine. So.
And similarly, the training that we put together, in addition to Christine's training, we believe is relevant both within the Department of Medicine, but also across for other departments, and also uses folks' expertise from the Office of Academic Affairs and other groups as well. So we believe it can be reproduced as well.
Excellent, thank you. Dr. Vasquez just asked, she says, thank you for this great program. Are mentees and mentors allowed time away from their clinical academic duties to participate in this program?
So the mentors, a big part of this, and thank you to initially Bob and Kathy, and now Bonnie and team. We protect the mentors' time and provide them resources. So that was a huge step forward and a necessary step, so that each of our model leads are given time to do this. In terms of the mentees, that is really kind of dependent on the divisions, but that's not necessarily a part of the program at this point. So it's usually their own individual time for self-development and education that they bring in.
Excellent, thank you for answering that. You mentioned, especially towards the end, talked a little bit about potentially spreading this to other departments or maybe through SHC. This sounds like a great program. Obviously it's new, you're creating data on it. Do you see this perhaps being a model that is brought over to the departments? And would that be separate, or would you integrate it with our department in a way to create more culture between various departments within the school?
I think we could do it both ways. We were actually really surprised and kind of excited to learn that many of our mentees wanted cross-divisional mentorship. They really appreciated the mentorship they were receiving within the division, but they also felt like they had a lot to learn from folks outside of the division. And even Minjoung, who's doing something very unique in Tri-Valley, where she's really mentoring everyone within a particular geographic region. And it doesn't matter whether you're an infectious disease doctor, a pulmonologist, or a hospitalist, you are all under one umbrella because you share that community. So in the end, it's really based on what's identifying for that person. Where do they identify? Is it based on community? Is it based on division? Is it based on another form of their culture or social groupings that would allow them to come in and lean into this? So I think there's possibilities for this to be cross-department and for folks to lean in that way.
Excellent. A question here from Dr. Linda Clever. Do you have plans to transfer the superb work to boot on the ground clinicians who serve outside the university sphere? Thanks for your initiative. So yeah, just asking for more of this. Yeah, any way to expand it even more? It's kind of similarly.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating because one of the beauties of doing this work is I've gotten to work with faculty from so many different specializations. Some of the conversations that I had with like Maya and Will, like how are primary care doctors going to take advantage of this? How are hospitalists going to take advantage of this? Their schedules are so tight. They work so many hours. So I think no matter where you live, whether it's in a community practice or a county hospital or in a hospitalist group, I think this can work. It's just about figuring out the structure that's going to work for that group and being flexible. So I think I've learned a lot from Will. Like Will, many of his sessions are Zoom, and then he has some that are in person, and he's chosen a hybrid model to honor his particular group. Similarly, in a community practice model, they might do something similar with a hybrid model. But it's really taking some of these learnings and then making sure that we offer it for everyone.
Excellent. And were there any, so you mentioned great support from Bonnie, also Bob and Kathy before they moved on. Were there any challenges with this? Like, this is a big undertaking. So to create a program like this, were there times where you thought it wouldn't work out, or were there any things that almost didn't get it to happen, or was it really just a huge support all the time by everybody and with no issues?
Oh my God, I was terrified. I was terrified at every step of the way. I need to be honest. I have to give Rebecca Giraldi and Upi Singh huge kudos. They were enormous, incredibly smart women, cheerleaders. They worked really hard to work with all of the division chiefs to get their support. They worked really hard with the department to get its support. It really required a collaboration between division and department. And some really very strong organizational skills. But then I think what really made me excited and made me less worried was when we recruited our 7 model leads. These 7 people are truly rock stars. I could not have asked for a kinder, smarter, more amazing group of people. They are invested in their teams, they're invested in their groups. So it's when I started to realize that there was this was going to be okay because of these 7 people. So I am really grateful to them for carrying this forward.
You mentioned at the very beginning, so I mentioned I thought this was more of a how to get promoted, how to be good in research type of mentorship. This is so much deeper than that. And you talked at the beginning about being burnout, and that really resonated, that it isn't just going on vacations and having time to just check out. It's more about being more involved and giving to others that helps treat really burnout more than anything else. That resonates very well, I think, with probably everybody here. As far as the ingredients of this program, can you specify, this may be a tough question to answer, but is there to treating, and you're still studying this, but treating the burnout, that really the internal of the person, you have Rebecca Merrill, you have Shape making space in this. What are the ingredients you think are most impactful or will be most impactful? Again, you're studying this, that will really lead to that internal improvement that people have, that decreasing the burnout isn't just learning how to get support to get promoted. It's really something much deeper, as you talked about. Can you comment more? What do you think the most important aspects of this program that you think will lead to that benefit?
I think it's twofold. I think one is the model lead. Our model leads are truly exemplary folks holistically. They're successful as far as checking the boxes, but they're also really good listeners. And they've spent a lot of time understanding their divisions, understanding their faculty, and that I think is enormous. I think the other piece is the people within the groups and the culture that you create within the groups. I remember when I finished Link, someone said, Kavitha, Link is true because of the way you led it. And if it was led by someone else, it might be different. So as a leader and as a group member, you're creating culture. And when you're creating culture, you're creating a culture that allows for a sense of vulnerability. And when you allow for that sense of vulnerability, you allow for things to rise from it. And then great things happen. People do become medical directors and get promoted to chairs and deans and stay on at Stanford and get excited about sabbatical. But if you don't start with that culture and you don't start with that vulnerability, you end up with a really flat cookie. And it's not, you can say all the right things, but it doesn't get you to the right place. And it's about bringing both the lead and that unique culture and creating the opportunity for vulnerability that allows for folks to really shine. But the goal is not to shine. The goal is to come in and to be honest and to be real. And then the rest gets built on it.
This is such an amazing program. I want to highlight a few comments. Dr. Mark Nichols mentioned the comments. This is a phenomenal start to a great program. We are already feeling its impact. Great job, leaders. Angela had mentioned earlier, and again, amazing work. And I want to also close here, if I could, with Dr. Lafayette. He said, thanks to the department and to each of you for moving this program forward. For the emotional health of the docs and desire to keep learning, the most simple process is peer face-to-face gatherings during work hours. Sharing cases, experiences, career options in a guided, more natural way is so helpful, but so missed during COVID, in this COVID area or post-COVID area. Hope you encourage more of this. Yeah, just hit it on the nose as we're all feeling. We're still in this COVID post-COVID area. We don't even know which is technically is, but just there's a lot we're still reeling from, and this program sounds unbelievable. Any other comments before perhaps we'll close if there's no other questions, but any other thoughts or comments, Dr. Ramchandran and other doctors?
Yeah, I'd like to say something if I could.
Great.
I think, thank you for doing this. It's a really important for junior and mid-level and even senior faculty to have mentorship. And I remember struggling so much when I was younger, looking for the right mentor. And it turns out there's not a right mentor. There are people out there who will support you, and those are your mentors, whether you realize it or not. And you can have mentors in many different areas. And I think that this helps ease folks into having some kind of built-in pool of mentors, if you will, people who can help to guide you in a direction that you didn't really know that you wanted to go or needed to go. And then, Kavitha, I really appreciated your comments about sponsorship in addition to mentorship, because that's something that I don't think we often enough think about, and which is really promoting other people. Behind the scenes, they may not even be aware that you've done it, but if you can promote other people, if you can recommend them for roles on committees, if you can recommend them for roles in studies or at national meetings, all of those things help advance someone's career, as you guys have alluded to. But it's something that I think those of us who have more experience often forget about, and we're so busy just trying to give advice and not always in the best way. So I appreciate your program for teaching people how to do that. But we want to be helpful as people with a little bit more experience. And it's helpful to have this platform to be able to be part of helping people advance their careers. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Anne. You've always been an amazing guide for many of us, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weinecker, for those words. Those are really perfect. And Dr. Dunn, thank you for noting such important work, and congratulations. Can't wait to see where it goes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and sticking with us. And I hope you have a good rest of the week. We'll see you at the town hall later today and the future town halls.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
The preceding program is copyrighted by the Board of Trustees of the Leland Stanford Junior University. Please visit us at med.stanford.edu.